People who take out their phones to record strangers who are having bad days. Why?
I would also love to know. I'm a dwarf and I get random strangers filming me and taking photos all the beep time. Whether I'm having a bad day or not, they are guaranteed to turn it into a bad day. Edit, since this is getting a lot of attention, thought I'd share an interview with Eugene Grant, a columnist for The Independent who, like me, has achondroplasia and lives in the UK. It also shows some footage he took of assholes who pulled his beep.
One time I actually went verbally abusive towards my neighbor for this. My fiancé is an epileptic. His seizures can be life-threatening as they sometimes stop his heart. One evening last year he had one of those and I had to perform CPR. I obviously simultaneously called an ambulance and they came shortly after, leaving the lights on because they had to park in the middle of the street. Now after a seizure, my fiancé is very disoriented. He doesn't know where he is, who anyone else is, it sometimes differs, but it's always bad. On this particular day, he remembered me and took to me for help in his confusion. He couldn't feel his legs, he didn't know what was happening, he didn't realize he only had his underpants on. We had gone to sleep about an hour before and it was a very hot day. He was bleeding from his mouth because he had bitten a tiny bit of his tongue off and his chest was red from me hitting it during CPR. He looked awful. When the paramedics and I helped him outside to bring him to the ambulance, he wasn't able to put any clothes on due to his disorientation and would shrug any blanket off because it was too hot. The neighbor, alerted by the siren and lights of the ambulance, was standing outside his house, beer in hand, filming us. I helped put my fiancé into the ambulance and went to grab a bag of stuff for the hospital. My fiancé cried out for me like a lost child since I was the only person he recognized. It was heartbreaking, and my asshole of a neighbor filmed it all while laughing his drunken ass off. I went over, yelled at him in very explicit language and demanded he delete the video. He just laughed at me. Well, joke was on him. I called the cops and they took the phone. He got to pay a fine for filming a person without permission, illegal in Germany, and has now orders to stay away from us. I still wonder what he thought while doing this. Or if he thought STH at all.
One time we were driving through a neighborhood to get to my brother's, and this car was sitting in the center of the street. We stopped for a bit and they didn't move, so we slowly went around them. Nothing aggressive, we gave them time to go but they just sat there. 2 cars behind us did the same. Well, that must have pissed them off because they followed us and chewed out my husband and their reasoning didn't really make sense. I noticed his girl was filming. She probably thought my husband, a big white dude, was going to be aggressive to them. Instead he just told them they were in the middle of the road and to have a nice day. The guy kept going but we kept telling them to have a nice day and waited for them to leave. My husband was pissed but I told him he reacted the right way because they wanted to catch something on film and didn't.
Especially the ones that use filming you as a threat. I was just doing my job one day when this customer got extremely upset because she wasn't getting her own way and got her phone out and stuck it in my face and started filming. I really wanted to grab it out of her hand and launch it as far as I could, but luckily I didn't take the bait and kept my job.
When I did first aid at my last job, the asshole who pulled out their phone to start filming was the person who was designated to call 911 and go wait for the ambulance. I would usually take the phone from them and dial 911 on speaker and hand it back to them so I could talk, then go, "Okay, now go wait for the ambulance and bring the paramedics here." They were usually so unbalanced that I grabbed their phone they didn't have a chance to object. So, now I have someone taking care of the paramedics and the asshole filming is gone. Don't be that guy. Nobody respects you.
Me and my friend were wearing our bathing suits at a water park and one of the staff members was taking video of us. So, I went up to him and freaked out demanding he show me he delete it. We were like 14 at the time and he was probably like 50. Now that I'm older and wiser, I should have reported him to the water park.
There was this really bad accident one town over where this dude from out of town ran past a stop sign and slammed into a van full of 3 or 4 children, the mother and the father. Some weren't wearing seatbelts. The father and son in the van survived with some injuries. The mother had a brain injury. 3 children died, 1 was unborn. The father recorded video after video about the event that happened. He documented every painful thing that happened to help him cope with what happened. He shared it all to Facebook to reach out to the community for help. This is all fine, but this man's wife had just lost 2 babies, and her unborn baby. She was in a coma, unlikely to wake up. In a turn of events, the wife woke up and began to rally. This is where I became grossed out. Shortly after she woke from her coma, the husband pulls out his phone and records himself telling his wife that they lost 3 of their children. He puts the phone in her face rather than console her. Then, he posted it online for the hundreds and hundreds of people following the event on Facebook. This woman just got out of a coma, and just received the worst news of her life, and this man put it online for the world to see. Absolutely disgusting. The wife died later on too. Terrible situation. I can't claim to know what I would do if it were me, but it was awful to see.
I did it once when I saw a lady slapping the beep out of her boyfriend in public. I was only taking photos while having a stroll when it happened, and I thought that the cops would be right along. She eventually stormed off. He noticed me and started screaming at me to delete the video. I explained that it was evidence that he didn't start or participate in the fight, and he calmed down. Cops never came. We went our separate ways, and I deleted the video. I would have done it for anyone, no matter who. I don't even think about uploading it for people to snicker at public freakouts.
Because likes and views fill the void in insecure people.
I lived in a place where there was this small dam, with a road running along it. One winter an elderly couple slid off the road into the water. It wasn't deep, but deep enough to drown if you are sitting down in a car. The first guy who pulls over leaps out and into the water and start trying to force his way into the car to pull them out. In a few moments later other people pull over. Everyone pulls out their phones. Not to call the emergency services, no. They start filming. The guy in the water screams at the other to help, to call the emergency services, to get in the water and get the people in the car out. Eventually the emergency services get there. One of the 2 in the car is dead, the other in a coma from hypothermia and an oxygen deprivation. They awake some days later to learn their spouse drowned. I don't actually have an answer to your question, but this was what it made me think of, and I just can't figure out why the beep people would be like this, and how the hell they live with themselves.
New Year's Eve, the year 2000. I was working security for this event. Fireworks show was over at the local park, everyone was leaving, and I heard a terrible scream behind me. A teenage girl had fallen out of the tree she'd been in to watch the fireworks, onto the park bench below, and busted out her front teeth. She was squealing and howling, and I got her to open her mouth so I could assess the damage. It was not good, teeth were broken off just below the gum line. Her jaw didn't seem to be broken though, so there was that, and there wasn't a lot of bleeding. I held her hand and told her that it was going to be all right, that the damage was fixable, that I'd had my own front teeth busted out, and they'd fixed it just fine, gave her my winning smile. You really can't see the damage. I'd just gotten her down from screaming to crying when her mother showed up. I stood up to get out of the way, and found there was this beep, looked like a college student, accompanied by some girl of the same age, standing there not 10 feet away with a video camera and a smile, filming this with great intensity, like it was the most exciting beep he'd ever seen. I stood up to face him. WTF is wrong with you? The camera turned to me now, his smile got even bigger. Oh boy, this video was just going to get better and better. This girl is having the worst moment of her life, and you're what? Gonna film it so you can enjoy it in the privacy of your own home? At this point I saw the change on the face of the girl he was with as it dawned on her that she was with a creep. She gave him this look of cautious disgust, concern and said, Jake. Stop. We need to go. He kept filming. He was just totally transfixed by it all. She looked at him for about 4 long seconds. I'm leaving, now, she announced, and walked away. He decided to reluctantly follow her, but walking backward, filming me standing there looking at him until they'd disappeared into the crowd. I've sometimes wondered, when he viewed that footage later, if it was really as awesome as he imagined it would be at the time. I think probably not.
A woman posted a few weeks ago somewhere that she was trying to return something to a baby supply store and they kept just offering her store credit. She tried explaining she had a miscarriage and couldn't use it, and they kept insisting she get store credit, which just added so much injury to insult. She got to the point where she was just sobbing and begging for a refund because she didn't have any money for a hotel in the city she was staying to get the procedure to remove the fetus, and she was desperate. Some asshole, of course, whipped out his phone and started recording her without any idea why she was upset, and calling her Karen. She, understandably, went off on him. I can't even imagine how heartbroken and distressed she was, and someone took advantage of it for social media attention. These days, it's just assumed that someone who is upset is being a terrible person for whatever reason. That's not always the case. Honestly, just leave people alone, especially if you know nothing about the situation.
Fake internet points.
I have never done this, but I assume the reason is because once the person's soul is captured inside your camera, you can harvest the dark energy from it for spellbinding purposes.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.